Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. Let's talk about Palantir Technologies, some recent news that we've seen, talk about its price action, and what could be happening next week. Now, if you're new or a returning viewer, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, one of the big pieces of news that we did get for Palantir is very bullish in the case that Palantir joins forces with Israel Defense Ministry in the actual war tech partnership. And why this is great, because this is showing you that Palantir's AI data analytics software is being used for the good. And you see here that Palantir, as they show on their website, has advertised that their software for these clients can function as a new age of technology for warfare and deterrence. Now, talking about that, looking at what the tensions that we have right now is that they have entered into the strategic collaboration with the actual defense ministry to provide their technology and support for the nation's military operations, following discussions right here. And while these times are very tense right now in our world, this shows you that the demand and the actual functionality that Palantir can bring in terms of utility with its AI software from a defense perspective. And that's a really important thing for these countries, is to have a strong military defense. And with that, both of these parties have mutually agreed to harness Palantir's advanced technology in support of these related missions. And there's been no kind of additional information. But what we do have is that Karp, remember, the CEO of Palantir, had told Bloomberg regarding the tensions that their products have been in great demand. And this is great, especially as we look at the price action right here. Palantir, in terms of the last trading session, did a good job holding at the 16s and still kind of building this foundational support. With this consolidation at the 16s, and why this price zone is important is because Palantir does not have an incredibly, I would say, amount of trading history recently within this price zone. Palantir before the 16s, before we saw those Q3 earnings, which pushed Palantir to that 21.85 for the last year's year-to-date high, Palantir typically liked to trade between the 13s and the 15s. Did not have a lot of price action and support building in the 16s. As you see here, there is a strong support line at the 17s. You can see multiple touch points and reversals recently here before there was a little bit of a pullback for PLTR. If Palantir is able to reassume that $17 level of support, then we talk more about the trading zones. This area back into the 18s, the 19s, and even this $20 level of resistance becomes more of a possible reality in the near future. Now, Motley Fool puts out a great article here talking about PLTR's performance. And we're going to be talking about some of its criticisms, because the criticisms are important to acknowledge, really talking about its revenue rate and also looking at its valuation. Now, one thing to consider is that Palantir stock did soar 167% last year. So a lot of people are saying, is PLTR outside of that hyper growth period? Now, specifically, if we quickly look at its market cap at 36.47 billion, I would say no. This isn't even a mega cap stock yet. And I think still has a lot of speculation behind it. And there is a lot of market share that is anticipated to come into these AI stocks. Now, reason number one here is that revenue growth rate should accelerate. One of the biggest criticisms that we have seen for Palantir is decelerated annual revenue growth rate. And you see this right here. Palantir went public in 2021, and we saw revenue clocking in from 47% in 2020, coming down to 16% in 2023 through the first 3 quarters. Now, revenue has been in its teens for the last 4 quarters. But however, talking about this, there are worse things that we have seen in different companies, and analysts are seeing revenue predictions of about 20% in 2024. What's going to be critically important for PLTR is in 1 month exactly, February 13th. That's going to be the next quarter earnings. We're predicting to be at 8 cents per share with a revenue at about 602 million. And one thing that I think that has been an important catalyst for Palantir to try to beat Wall Street's expectations like they have for the previous few quarters is their commercial growth is really starting to move the needle. And this is Palantir utilizing their AIP software, and specifically their AIP bootcamp here, to test trial with different private clients to see the utilization, the efficiency, and the effectiveness of their software for these possible clients. And with that, Palantir has delivered $403 million in commercial revenue in over just the past 4 quarters. And we're seeing this on a year-over-year basis increasing about 23%. Now, talking about this and with the recent great collaboration that we saw with Option Care Health, working with Palantir to try to improve the healthcare industry, we see diversification with the sectors that Palantir is getting involved in. We know historically Palantir has really been involved with the governmental contracts. And Alex Karp even came out and said that these revenue generators, though they've been the majority, they hold the major share of the revenue income for Palantir. Sometimes the contracts can be kind of lumpy and I want to say stumpy with the actual revenue that does come in. With diversification and branching out into the commercial sector, we were seeing growth quarter by quarter, and with the AIP bootcamp, I believe we're going to continue to see that. And talking about that, this is where scalability and the starting lines do matter. And specifically, if we zoom out on Palantir, back when it first started to be publicly traded, it traded as high as $45 3 years ago, when there was a lot of momentum behind a lot of the stocks. Now, revenue has more than doubled since that time, and we obviously see profitability now. And this comes into that fourth quarter of GAAP profitability that we talked about a few times, is will PLTR join the S&P 500 index? And this could be a large milestone for the company if this happens in 2023. Now, Palantir is already more valuable than the majority of the stocks within the S&P 500, and it has yet to be officially included, though many expect that this could actually be made formal sometime in 2024. As we've seen historically, as stocks come into the S&P 500, we see a result of boost of buying activity. And this is just a general buying activity with all of the exchange traded funds, the ETFs, all the other mutual funds that are tracking or have some type of exposure to the S&P 500. With this, we've seen historically about a 5% gain. And back in December, when we've seen Uber that was added on there, shares gained about 6%. Airbnb rallied more, about 7%. So with that, one thing that's important is the big flag concerns for Palantir is its valuation. And that's where we see its actual non-GAAP price to earnings ratio is basically up in the high 70s, nearly touching 80. So right now, Palantir is trading at a high premium, even with the pullback that we have seen, going from 21 down to the 16s right now. However, this may not necessarily deter investors. You see, for the value-oriented investors, of course, this is a deterrent. But for people that are taking a bullish bet on a disruptive technology, willing to pay a high premium as Palantir is working to grow into its valuation, dollar cost averaging, as pullbacks do occur within the stock, this could be a good opportunity for 2024. Of course, many different things could happen. There's variables that nobody knows. There could be big impacts that could have large fluctuations in the market, especially with the interest rates. We now have kind of some uncertainty on when the Fed is going to begin those interest rate cuts with the recent inflation data rate report that came in at 3.4% compared to the 3.2. Now, lot to digest here, but with that, Palantir is continuing to make moves. We'll be keeping an eye on it. Take care, peace out, and I'll catch you guys later.